and all the homies, and she just after she fucked. Yeah.
So people were asking before about like that the NDS yards and stuff. Do you know anything that's been going on with those lately? Oh man. So I was trying to get this live on with Crow. It said network connection error. So I broke my phone the other day, and I'm using the baby's phone right now. But my SIM card works in it, but my phone keeps shutting off on him. So hopefully he'll call back right now. But anyways, I did that little video with Sandman the other day. That way, we wanted to put my story out there and stuff, and that way, also we could answer some of the questions that people might have or whatever. Because I know a lot of these people be trying to basically like hide what's going on with them, like their status and stuff like that. So that's why more or less I did that story with Sandman. Just so there was nothing out there that people think was being hidden or anything like that. So it's kind of been a minute since I've been on a live. There's been like a lot going on lately. But yeah, so anyway, so really I just been busy like painting the house and shit like that, painting on the inside. And I just finished up doing my son's room. He wanted to change the color from white. So we did it like a dark bluish gray for him. And that's pretty much been about it. So there's something I was going to talk about. I was going to do a video about it. It was more or less about why some of these channels feel like they got to lie so much on the content they're putting out there. And I seen another video that somebody else did, and it was more or less kind of covering the same thing. Whereas a lot of these channels be lying on their content more for their image and shit like that. When they don't realize like everybody catches on to these lies that they're doing, and it's not making their image look any better. It's making it look worse, actually. And it's not hard to catch these dudes on their lies. Like, I was watching the video on the runner had put out on that deporting and how he went to the Home Depot in Washington and shit like that. And he don't even live in Washington. So like, how you didn't say that you went to Home Depot, and then his whole story like started off on lies. Let's see, what's this comment? I don't know what the comment is. Let me see. Okay. But yeah, I've kind of noticed like a lot of these dudes, they start these stories off on lies, and then they wonder why when people hear these lies that they start throwing out paperwork and all that shit on them and kind of like calling them on their bullshit. But it's because they put out so much fake content these days that it's like they're putting out all this fake content, and then they're getting mad when people call them on their bullshit. It's like, it's not hard to keep it real from the beginning. Robert Bucar said, Crow, I heard of him because of Gunner. Yeah. Crow I had met years, like shit, almost 2 decades ago. He's a good dude, solid dude. He's going to be getting out in a couple of years. He went to his first board, and he got denied because of a couple of removals that he's did in prison and stuff. And he falls under that same shit as that Dubs got out on. And that's why I be saying that these dudes that be putting in work and shit like that in the prison system, when these new laws come into effect and shit like that, you're still not getting out. So if you were anybody and you were putting in any type of work, those laws aren't going to let you out. For those laws to let you out is basically you've been sitting there doing nothing your whole time. And it doesn't matter if they drop out or they debrief and stuff like that. You're still then be stuck because the Board of Prison Terms is the one that does your release and decides whether or not you're suitable to go back out to the streets. And just because a law goes into effect doesn't mean that Board of Prison Terms has to let you out under that law. And that's what happened to a lot of these dudes that fell under that law. Is Board of Prison Terms is still not letting them out because they're holding what they did in the prison system against them. And then they do their psych evals and all that shit too. And one little thing, and it kind of like screws you. Robert said, absolutely, they're not going to give you a chance when you've been fucking people off. Yeah, that's 100% true. Like, and not just that, like, there's been people that like have wrote into the Board of Prison Terms and emailed Board of Prison Terms for Crow and spoke good on him and spoke on like the positive turn he's had in his life lately. And even with that and people backing him and like saying that they got like stuff to help him when he gets out, they're still not giving him that chance. So for people to get out under that law that supposedly have been somebody or been doing something, I think it's bullshit. I think it's more them speaking out the side of their neck, just trying to put it out there like they were somebody when they really weren't. And this is something I spoke on before, like with the validation process, as anytime you're celled up with somebody that is actually documented as a leadership position or somebody that's known in the prison system and you get validated, they're not then let you just go to the program office and tell them that you can't be on the yard no more, that you want to go S&Y. You get thrown into the step down program and you have to do the debriefing process. And there's people out there that try to say that they win and basically just win S&Y, and like it doesn't just happen that way, especially once you've been validated, unless you're validated for under certain things. But if you're validated as a known associate of one of these groups of legends and shit like that, like you're not just gonna be going and dropping out and not have to do the step down or debriefing process. And in the debriefing process, it states like that they're then check all your answers to it, and then they go back and then they cross-reference those with the information that they already know from other dudes that have left that yard. And if you're giving them bullshit information, they then kick you right back to where you were trying to leave from, because they already know the information that they're looking for. So to sit there and for somebody to say that they were validated and shit like that, it's like, okay, well, we all know that you went through the debriefing process, or we all know that you were S&Y. So if you can't be real with yourself and admit to yourself what you did, and then try to turn around and deny it to everybody else, like how are you expecting anybody else to believe it? And a lot of these people can't be real with themselves in the first place. And that's why they get on here and they try to get people to co-sign their bullshit and all this, because they feel like if they get enough people co-signing this bullshit, that it's then become reality. And the reality to it is they're just so delusional that they think that they're smarter than everybody else and their subscribers, and their subscribers aren't. They see the lies, and that these lies will become truth, and they don't. it's still just MB bullshit. And that's one of the big problems that I see here on Facebook, or even on all social medias. I see it on Facebook. I see it all over the place. And you get these dudes on YouTube, and it's just making everybody else on YouTube like look bad in a way, because you get all these dudes out here that are just lying to their subscribers and thinking that their subscribers are too dumb to see the truth in them, and they all just like think that is like a joke or a game, and they be on this bullshit, and it makes people look at everybody else in like a bad way. Hey, what's going on, D? How you doing? So yeah, I think what people need to start doing is more or less calling these fools on their bullshit and their lies. Let me see. Joey Frakes. Bro, I had a DOD clearance when I caught my felony. Worst decision of my life. Kids, stay away from drugs and gangs. Exactly. That's true right there. The worst thing you could do is get involved with something, especially with any groups or gangs that are like anything that's not positive. Like the only groups that you can get involved with in a positive way is through like these youth centers and shit like that, or football teams. That's the only groups that you need to get involved with, is sports teams, because all these gangs, all they do is they use you and use you and use you until you can no longer be used no more. You decide you're going to say no, and then from there you then become a target. Oh, it's okay, D. I just started. I had one of my boys, Crow. I was on the phone with him, and he asked to call back because we were then talking about the non-designated yards. But in the little room I got set up, my phone call dropped, and I broke my phone the other day walking in the store with my son. And so now I'm using the baby's phone with my SIM card in it. But yeah, I decided to jump on, and then my phone cut off on me. But Joy was saying to kids stay away from drugs and gangs. That's the main thing. Like, and it's not just the kid's fault for joining gangs and getting involved with drugs. I think a lot of it has to do with the parents too. And that's where the blame should really start. Because if you're not paying attention to what your kids are doing and just letting them run the streets and shit like that, then you're basically allowing them to do the shit that we all don't want them to do. And I might be like tough on my kids and even my stepkids, but it's because I know from growing up, and my mom was there. She tried hard, but my stepdad, he wasn't really around. He was there, but he wasn't like really involved. He was more off to the side, and it was kind of like, just leave me alone, and you do you and I'll do me. And without that like male role model or anything in my life, it gave me the like chance to run around in the streets with my friends. And that's how it all started right then. Was as soon as I was able to run around out on the streets is when I was involved with drugs and then with gangs. Joey said, man, one morning I was walking into work to operate robots on the F-35 line. The next day I was in LA County, Twin Towers. Thankfully, I was a trustee. Man, that's crazy. And that's how it happens too. Especially if you're involved with drugs or anything like that. Like, there's people out there that one day they have a good job. Next day they get pulled over and get busted with something in their car, and it's over. Like, your whole life is at an end right then. And there's a lot of like sports players that stuff happens to too, that get involved with drugs and still kicking it with the gang members that they grew up with around their neighborhood. And a lot of these rap stars too, like, they're still getting high and they're still like on the sideline gang banging, and eventually their career just takes an end or they end up dead. Now there was a football player a while back, and there was a football player a while back. He got busted on some stuff, and at the time, my little cousin, she worked for the Southern California Innocence Project, and they did a movie on her. She ended up getting this dude out because it was like a wrongful conviction or whatever. But it's like that's what happens. Like one day everything be doing good, the next one you take a fall and your life's over. Joey said everything is getting laced, guys. Don't fuck with anything. That's true. They be cutting that fentanyl into everything nowadays, and that's because the fentanyl was so cheap that fentanyl was originally designed as a cut for pharmaceuticals, but it's so strong that now these dudes are using that to cut their other shit, and it's killing people. Like, you don't know what people are putting into anything no more these days. And even back in the day, like before the fentanyl was around and all that shit, like drugs is nothing that all that's saying do is destroy lives and families. That's all that comes out of it. Nothing good comes out of using drugs, selling drugs, or anything like that. Like, not all money is good money. And for these people that sit there and sell drugs and collect all this money, that's all bad money in my eyes. Like, you don't understand how many families you're ruining by making that money. And just that right there should be enough to be like, okay, well, that's not good money. And I don't know how anybody could be proud of that, like making all this cash off of destroying other people's families. It's just a sad thing that people try to benefit off of, because they know there's always going to be people around that's willing to do it. And then eventually they end up locked up in jail and prison, or they end up dying, or they end up getting killed because somebody wants to take over their space or their product and shit like that. It's like it's a circle that's never going to end, and it's always going to destroy somebody's family one way or another. So I don't know if anybody's been paying attention really to this Adam 22 shit lately. And I'd seen a few videos on it and a lot of different debates on it, and people thinking that his show's not going to end. And anytime that you got gang members hanging around your place of business and cops get involved and shit like that, eventually you then get shut down, because you then have active gang members running in and out of there, carrying guns, whatever. You then have cops watching this business now because it's already been known as a hot spot for gang activity. And eventually you then end up with like what happens to some of these biker gangs when you got the feds running up in there looking for racketeering and where's this money coming from and shit like that. Or you then end up scheduling enemies at the wrong times, and eventually somebody's going to feel played and think that you set them up. Shasta McNasty said, unless you're a Fed, which Adam 16 is. Could be. He did say that if he had information to give the police, he would, but everything that went on was on camera, so he says that he didn't have no information to provide because it was all on camera. But I don't know. I think there's more to the story than what he's saying, because every time a story comes out, there's a little bit more that's been involved or being said that is being put out there. Why does everybody call him Adam 16? I don't know. I don't even know why they call him Adam 22, really. Maybe I know that he was involved at some time with some minor or something, so maybe that's why they call him Adam 16, because the person was 16. I don't know. Joey Frank said, yeah, man, I started as a guy with a broken back from snowboarding. After 15 years off and on, and there's probably 1,000 guys just like here, like there in Cali. Guys, just stay away from opiates. Opiates is a bad one. And I think that's worse on families and stuff like that because people addicted to opiates it's a more dangerous circle, especially in the drug game. And those people, to keep from being sick, they'll do anything. And that's why a lot of those people like basically selling drugs in that category, because they know that no matter what, that person's going to be back to get more, to make sure that they're well. And it's a vicious circle. And you see a lot of them coming into the jails and prisons. And what's sad is like these dudes are out there so strung out from these opioids that basically our government pushes out to them. And when they come in, they're not getting no sympathy or remorse or nothing like that coming into the jails and prisons. Before, it used to be like you come in and you'd get so many days to be on board with the workout routines and shit like that. And these dudes would come in and they'd be sick for a week. And before they used to be able to sit there and try to get well. And it's not like that no more. It's just like, I don't know. It's just sad, like watching how bad like our society is being destroyed by drugs and shit like that. And I think that's where they should do a lot of their focus on. And that's what a lot of these wars, if you look back at like the Iraq war and shit like that, it was all over the opioid trade. They try to say that a lot of it had to do with the oil, but that's not what they were fighting over. They were fighting over those opioid fields. Shasta McNasty said he flew to Canada to meet up with a 16-year-old girl and took the name Adam 22 because his teen name is Adam Grand Mason the 22nd. He's from a blue blood family from Northampton, Hampshire. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't see how, if you're on some weird shit like that, how does he even have these dudes fucking with him in the first place? Like, how does he have all these active gang members on his show when they know that the dude's on some weird shit like that? That's just like that that pedo King Academics that I just did the story on. He's using his platform and his influence to lure boys over to the video game section. How some of these YouTubers be playing their video games on their platform and shit like that. And he's luring these kids over there and trying to get them to do way out, whacked out shit. Like, but he's still got people that's fucking with him in the same time. Like, nah, that shit needs to be cut out. Like, if you're on some weird shit and shit like that, people need to just cut those people loose and stay away from them. Either that or YouTube needs to start doing some sort of fucking like background checks on some of these guys, because you're getting some way out people on there that just makes it look even worse. Like, that's why I say like parents need to monitor the YouTube and what channels their kids are going to, because not all channels out there is somebody that's trying to put out something positive for their life. And some of these channels is doing nothing but like preying on them. And those channels that are doing that need to be shut down and stopped. And the same thing goes with, I think, some of these channels that are encouraging kids to drop out and shit like that. Like, they need to, in my eyes, they need to stop doing that. Like, yeah, you don't want your kid involved with gangs and shit like that, but at the same time, you don't want to make your 15-year-old or 16-year-old a target for the rest of their life either, or make them to where they're in hiding because you got some dude telling them to drop out. Okay, D said, "Oh, I saw that guy. I went and looked him up. I don't know who he was. I heard him was a little boy and I had to go. That was sad. Yeah, that's crazy shit. Like, and from what I heard, like in 21 or 22, he had been wrapped up in another case like that. So it's like, this ain't the first time he's using YouTube to like prey on these people or on these people's kids. And I found out about it from another channel that I'm subscribed to, the Mika Love Show, and she be putting out some good content. And I had commented on her live, and she like responded on a couple questions, and that's why I used part of hers to put out mine, because she wasn't letting it go that what this dude was doing. And that's what people need to do, especially when they're in that same genre of content that they're putting out. They need to call each other on that bullshit. That way people could put a stop to it. Taffwood say, "What's up, homie? Loves and respects from Kern County." Hey, likewise, love and respects from Merced. So, what people think about the little story I did with Sandman? Because I know people had been in my comments for a while. Like King Kong was in my comments and he was asking questions about like my prison history and shit like that. And that's why when Sandman gave me the opportunity to go onto his show or his channel, I did it so that so it could be out there, because I know a lot of these people hide the fact of what their status is and what prisons they've been to or yards and shit like that. Joey Frey said, Sandman episode was great, bro. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I had it on earlier. My lady just finally watched it for the first time. So she'd watched it, and then like my kids watched it too. I tried to make sure that there was nothing in there that was really hidden. And there was like a couple incidents that I had to leave out of it. And that's why I said parts where like shit had happened, and then I got sent out of that prison because it was shit that was like pretty much couldn't be talked about because it involved too many other people. But like the stuff I did speak on was all 100% truth. And same thing goes with like when I got forced over, and that's why I made sure that it wasn't hidden, because like King Kong would have been like, well, have you been to SNY? Like, why are you on Dub so bad about his paperwork and shit like that? And it's not even that he's been doing SNY, that I can care less about. It's about him denying the fact that he has and trying to put out like lies and get people to co-sign that lies. He said, all your shows are good. I didn't get to see that Sandman, but I'm sure it's good. I'll watch it after this. Yeah, it's a long one. It's like, I think it's like an hour, 50 minutes. Because we were pretty much talked about like from the time I was growing up all the way through my prison history and shit like that. But yeah, it was a pretty good episode. We're gonna do some more in the future together. It was my first one with him, so see how everybody likes it and stuff. See if people got any input on what else they want to hear about and shit like that. Because I don't mind putting out videos, as long as it's shit that I can speak on firsthand. I'm not saying sit there and try to make shit up just to put out content. And just because I know I'm not there to try to play subscribers like that and shit like that. I'd rather just keep my content real and true. And if it's something that I don't know and I can't speak on, I'm not there to speak on it. I was doing it live. I am. But yeah, so that's pretty much the content I'm trying to keep it to, is to stuff that I can personally speak on and shit like that. And because I noticed, like, when you start trying to make shit up and do shit like that, like, yeah, you might put out good content, but people are gonna be calling you on your bullshit all the time, and then you're gonna be caught up in bullshit and shit like that. Taffwood said, "You ever hit YA?" No, I didn't. I never went to YA. I didn't start really going to. I think I got arrested one time when I was around like 14, and at that time they would like arrest you and call your parents and have them pick you up, and that's what had happened. Is I got arrested and my mom had to pick me up, and I didn't even go to like the juvenile hall or nothing. And then after that, I pretty much stayed out of trouble until after I was 18. And the cops were driving by, hitting their little sirens just now. But yeah, no, I never went to YA, never went to really juvenile hall. It was more or less once I was like 18, 19, I started going to county jails, and then I ended up in the prison system. But that was about it, yeah. All right, I'm gonna see what's going on. I'll jump back on here in a little bit. Let's see if I can get somebody on with me and see if we can get a good live going.